Hey guys, it's Matt here from Henry Schein. Just wanted to do a video tonight. Yes, it's night time. I love my work, clearly. But I just wanted to do a video explaining, I guess, the real basics of intraoral scanning. Digital scanning, I guess, are a lot of things that people may not understand. So really basic stuff explaining, talking about the scan, how it's made, how certain parts of scan strategy can affect the scan and whatnot as well. So essentially the two scanners that I'm going to use to show you tonight is we've got the Trios 4 here, and then we've got the Planmeker's Emerald scanner over here. So they're the two of the three scanners that we sell at Henry Schein. I wanted to show both to point out the beauty of having in-house, maybe not in-house workflows, but workflows where 3Shape products are dealing with 3Shape products and Planmeker products are dealing with Planmeker, and the advantage of it. So, and obviously having open scanners as well that make it possible to send scans to other places. So this is a Trios scan that's been done within the 3Shape software. And then over on this side, this is a Planmeker software. So if I open for scan and design, that will jump into here. So the reason why I wanted to show you these, so both of them, it is important how you scan. By scanning in the right strategy, essentially what's happening is, this is a denture, but let's say that you wanted to do a scan. It's important that when you are scanning, that you're scanning the occlusal surface first, then doing buccal or lingual or vice versa, depending on, obviously, if you're scanning on the upper or lower. So it's really important that you keep flat movements, because what's happening when you're scanning, it's no different to taking a panoramic photo. So your first image, if you had an old Kodak wind-up camera, when you take your first image, if you wanted to take your second image for a panoramic photo, you would have to make sure that the second image overlapped some part of the first image. So no different with scanning. So if I were to have a scanner, and if I were to keep a nice, flat, even plane like this as I'm scanning, the software is going to be able to easily start here and overlay images and understand where it's come from and not get lost. If I were to go like this really quickly, the software is going to be working overtime to try and figure out where it is. So, and that's across the board with all scanners. Some scanners it's more noticeable than others. Trios is actually pretty forgiving for moving and bumping around, but I'd always suggest to keep that scan strategy, big long scans, and move around like that. Now with the Planmeker scanner, which is this one here, so you can see as we scroll through using the scanner, we can use the buttons on the scanner to flick between upper, lower, bite, and whatnot. So notice how right now, because this is within the designing software, notice how initially it gives us this proposal and it shows us what it's like in this black and white, or ice view they call it over here, ice mode. So you'll instantly notice that when it's in ice mode in black and white, sharp corners become more prevalent. And so you can actually see sharp corners better, margins and whatnot, than if you had the color off and on. So if I were to try and draw a margin in here, see how there's some bleeding between color and whatnot? So the color is very handy, but when you've got sharp margins, obviously sharp margins are easily seen when it's in black and white. So if you had a perfect prep where you had no gum anywhere near the margin line, then much like the palatal side of that margin there, designing in black and white is no dramas. If you've got something that's getting towards subgingival, which is what's happening at the front of the scan here, obviously what we want color in the scan. So this is the important thing with, let's say, on Planmeker, because there's not per se many Planmeker labs. There's usually 3Shape or ExoCAD. They're the two big labs. The good thing about Planmeker is basically it exports in color and it exports in black and white. So If you're wanting to send this to 3Shape, you would have to send it, unfortunately, in a STL, which is basically like that, a black and white. Or if you wanted to send it to Exocad, Exocad would accept color scan, which is a PLY. So you can see in this color scan here, obviously it becomes easier to see where your margin is. Now I've taken a HD snapshot over the top of that as well. That's allowed that to be seen like that. So within the design software, so we're going to start marking our margin now. So you can see in here, if we wanted to start marking the margin, me personally, I always prefer the trace. And then from this, I'd start to mark the margin. Now you can see, I can't really see a defined margin here. So if we bring the color in, all of a sudden you can see where the margin is. So it is very important that, let's say for, if you're wanting to send work out, you'd want to make sure that whatever lab you're sending to, you can send to them in color. I think that if you're sending to a lab as an STL, you may not necessarily be happy with some of the quality of the work that you're going to get back because, quite frankly, the lab might struggle to see where the margin is. So now that we've gone around, moved our margin, we're happy with where the margin is now, you can bring color mode in and out so you can actually check to see you're happy with where your margin's sitting. So right now I'm pretty happy with where that margin's sitting. I'll just bring that down a little bit more. Yep, there we go. So our margin's now marked and we're good to do a crown. So I'll explain a little bit more about workflows in other videos, but I just basically wanted to explain to you the benefits of having color when you're marking out a margin or you're going to do a design. So that's a Planmeca workflow there, and explaining a little bit about the scan. And coming back into, we'll just wait for this to save, and we're going to jump into the 3Shape. So 3Shape, once again, we've done a scan in this page, and then we're going to go into the designing step. So the designing step is, we'll close that program. The designing step, essentially, once again, if you've got really crisp margins, you can obviously mark it in the black and white, but if you don't, then you can bring the color in, obviously, where it's beneficial to have the color. And it's also beneficial, once again, to do a HD snapshot where you're looking straight down at the scan and you're using the image that we've just taken to be able to mark the margin. So within the 3Shape software, they've got an automatic margin tool. So if we click over here, click on the margin line, and it's going to try and determine where the margin line is. So you can see that it's going to go around and try and mark the margin as best it can. No software will ever do a perfect margin. If it could, then I think technicians would be out of a job. So there is no, like in the perfect world on a perfect margin, something like this, it's going to get it, I'd say, 90% correct. Me being an ex-technician, I'd always prefer actually to trace a margin out and choose it myself rather than going in and fixing it. But, you know, if you wanted an automatic margin tool, that's about as good as they come, that one there. So we can then obviously flick between black and white and color. And we'll get rid of the photo. Might be helpful. And we'll flick between black and white and color. And now on maybe sharper parts of the margin, you might want to move it if you wanted to different areas just to fix it up. So you can see basically we're following everything pretty closely there. I might just bring that in just a smidge. So there we go. So now you can see that's good to go for us to design a crown. So really easy workflow, and the rest is pretty simple from there for designing. So are all scanners the same? They're not. They've all got different workflows and they've all got different I guess, ways to export. So within us, once again, 3Shape, most labs have 3Shape. So the good part about 3Shape is you're not necessarily exporting in a STL. So an STL obviously is what we're looking at now. So these are those two scans that I just did. So this is the Planmeca scan, and this one here is a 3Shape scan. And you can see across the Planmeca scan that the whole scan looks really uniform with the amount of triangles. So that's hence why the reason 3Shape are called 3Shape, because all 3D objects are actually made of triangles, or they're made of triangles so you can read them. So, and to explain that a little bit better, if anyone knows anything about photography, if you were to send a raw image from your camera to start editing, most photographers are going to edit in RAW. Most photographers aren't going to say, "Oh no, I edit over JPEG." You know, they edit it in RAW. So essentially, by you sending from a 3Shape scanner to a 3Shape lab, which most labs are 3Shape, essentially you're sending in that RAW file format, so it's as accurate as it can be. Once you export something as an STL, it's going to change, and you're going to get very, very small variances between it, but there are going to be some differences. So, and the difference between this particular scan, once again, you'll see the mesh density across that Planmeca scan is pretty even. So if we come on over to our Trios, you'll see that this area here of the Trios is quite dark, and the mesh density is a lot higher to the rest of the scan. So the reason 3Shape have an algorithm so that when you mark the crown in a crown workflow, it actually saves around the crown prep as a HD image. So both of these images are most probably across the board, across a full arch scan, are about as accurate as one another. Trios, however, saves around the prep in Ultra HD, which obviously is more computing power, but you can see around the margins become a little bit crisper to see. But once again, when you are marking the margins between that and the other Planmeca scanner, you bring in color, and it's neither here nor there, but you need the color. So it's very important that when you're buying a scanner, obviously that you're finding out whatever lab you're sending to who's got the software that you can ultimately send in a raw format. Other scanners also, from what I've seen, other scanners have different modes of scanning as well. So they've got like highly accurate mode, and then they've got, highly accurate and non-accurate, or obviously it's going to be semi-accurate, but if you want it to scan fast, ultimately when they're doing demos and they're scanning it in the fast speed, it's in non-accurate mode. So your tolerances and the difference between a scan can be quite large over a full arch. If you're wanting it in an accurate mode, all of a sudden the scanner becomes quite slow to scan. So it's important to understand that, if you're doing full arch scanning or quadrants, it's also going to be relative. So when it comes to a full arch scan, I don't think there are too many scanners on the market that are most probably faster than the Trios. Trios, I believe the Itero is pretty close to the Trios, but I feel that the Trios is still the king for scanning speed. Planmeca's Emerald or the Emerald S also is an ultra fast scanner. However, once again, it is reliant on that stitching. So with the Planmeca scanner, I would say that I wouldn't be having 5 coffees to go do a scan and then be shaking it around. So you need to follow that scan strategy for the software to be able to understand where it's been from and where it's going to. But it is lightning fast when it scans with the right strategy. So essentially from here, that allows you to understand how scans are made and how software reads them. So they're reading these little corners and they're working out the dimensions to be able to figure out the accuracy and the positions of that particular scan. So that is essentially the basics of 3D scanning. Some information hopefully makes sense to you. It's all a little bit crazy most probably when you're first thinking about it and first trying to learn about it. But I feel that is the best way for someone to understand the benefits of certain scanners. So sometimes buying a scanner that can't export in various different formats or can't export, in its original file format, are not as beneficial. So let's say for a cheaper scanner, and if you buy one, that's most really good. If you've got, it's good for anyone ultimately to buy a scanner, but let's say if your lab had Exocad, then it's not so bad because you can export the scan as a PLY, which means you're exporting it with color. If you're sending your scan at that cheaper scanner to 3Shape, well, 3Shape won't open a PLY. They'll open an SCL, which is a black and white, and they'll open their own 3Shape file format. So therefore, I wouldn't necessarily be buying a cheaper scanner if you're sending it to your 3Shape lab. I'll be buying a Trios or, another scanner. So, but ultimately, I would suggest that take on what you like out of that. I'm trying to make it non-partisan as much as I can. Obviously, I work for Henry Schein and I have my products to sell, but I do want to try and make it so that you understand the key benefits of certain products over others, or at least get a background understanding of how it all works, so then you can start to ask some proper questions in your when people come along to do demos within your practice. So all good. Well, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully that wasn't too long and laborious for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments down below and I'll get on to replying. And I'll do another video soon to do with designing workflows, and then also I'll do more videos also about scanning and strategy and whatnot, and make our way all through 3D printing and milling so you can understand the whole kit and caboodle. So all good. Well, thanks guys, it's been a pleasure, and enjoy your night. I think it's happy Halloween to you. Catch you all. Bye.